Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July meeting for the Village Planning Board. Before we start the hearing, I'd like to explain and go through the procedures that we're going to be following. When a case is called, the applicant will present their case to us, the board. The applications and full staff reports were all posted on the village website at least a week ago, and were available for the public to review. The applicant and all speakers in support or opposition to the application are reminded that the board's decision will be based on the standards set forth in the village code, and all comments should be directed to those standards. After the applicant's presentation is completed, the board may ask questions to the applicant and of the applicant or other speakers at any time during the hearing. Comments first in support and then in opposition to the application will be heard. After all the testimony has been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity to provide rebuttal. At the conclusion of that rebuttal, the case will then be closed. After closing the hearing for each individual case, we only have one on the agenda tonight, the board is going to deliberate and then we'll vote. During this time, we're not going to take any additional testimony by anyone. Please note, if your case is approved today, a written decision will be provided to you. Before we open this case, please, one last note, we are all volunteers here. I would like each of the board members to confirm their presence, starting with me for purposes of a roll call and for establishing a quorum of this hearing and introducing ourselves and mentioning our particular areas of expertise. So I'll start with myself. I'm Andy Martin. I'm the chair of the planning board. I'm an urban planner. I've been a planner for, almost 15 years now. Live here in the village as well. To my right is
Joseph Burkhart, planning board member. I'm a licensed engineer. I'm a construction consultant. I've been on the planning board, I think, for almost 5 years now. Maybe longer. You know, like long walks on the beach.
Sean Catco, alternate planning board member. Been on the planning board for about year and a half, 2 years at this point. Civilian side, I work at a big bank, and I've also been in the Army National Guard for 11 years too. So a little bit of everything, not quite as illustrious as my gentleman to my left, but here nonetheless.
in some ways more illustrious. I will also like to move Sean Catco to a full member for tonight's meeting. As you mentioned, he's an alternate, so that we can have a quorum and vote. One last thing before we get into it, we do have minutes from our previous meeting, but we cannot vote on them. I do want to just make note that that will be tabled until the next meeting when we can vote to approve those minutes. Okay.
So then I'll jump in and introduce case number one. So case number one is site plan and parking plan review. The address is 10 Liftbridge Lane East. The zoning district is Canal District. The applicant is Design Works Architecture. The request is to review the conversion of an existing structure located within 100 feet of the canal from office to commercial and residential, including the review of a parking plan. So if the applicant could come up and tell us about your application.
Well, I'm Chris Casa, owner. I own 85% of the Box Factory Boiler House, and this is my 31st year. Started with janitorial and painting and ended up buying family out back in 2009. And our plan here is to, as you know, convert from office to residential and retail or restaurant. As you know, the commercial market has changed since COVID. We have a lot of people working from home now. We have spaces that are 5,000 square feet where we don't know if 2 people use those spaces in a month. The other tenants that might affect the parking plan are Haircuts for Peanuts, which might see, 2 cars in an hour, and then ice cream shop open for 5 months of the year. Lulu's, which they shut their dining room down in the summertime, open it up in the wintertime, and vice versa with the deck open solely in the summertime and close that down in the fall.
Can I just ask for clarification?
Mhm.
So you said that Lulu operates the outdoor patio area during the summer and not the indoor portion.
the
Is that
o-
correct?
Yeah, the only time they allow indoor seating is like those bad weather days.
Okay.
Too much wind. The awning allows them to still serve out there rainy nights, but
Okay.
they rarely use the indoor, but they never use them at the same time.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
That's about it. Clementine Lulu's is one owner. They're two separate businesses, not two separate businesses. The daughter runs the coffee shop. It was his idea to get more dining room space in the wintertime. So that's it. Do you need more from me, or we hand it over to Alex?
Does the planning board have any questions for Mr. Casa?
Can you just review what's happening on the second floor, what's proposed for the second floor?
6 apartments. The largest one, I think, is about 750 square feet. Is that right?
And how many total bedrooms, or what's the
one
mix look like?
one bedroom each.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
I also do want to point out that one of the units is accessible.
All done?
Anything from you, Sean? I'm good
You're good.
at this
Sean?
point.
Well, and you can always bring Mr. Casa back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll go now. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to say I think this is a fantastic use of the space. You know, it's in line with the comprehensive plan, so thank you for bringing this up here. Just some concerns, minor concerns about like the flow throughout the actual lot. So I'm also an avid cyclist. I'm always biking through the village. Definitely appreciate the bike-friendly design as it is now. I noticed on your site plan, you have the bike rack templated to be on the canal side of the building. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah. So the only concern I have about that is that is a you have to walk your bike type of zone there. So it kind of encourages people to go along Liftbridge Lane and then pull into the parking lot and then go over to the canal. And, you know, that parking lot, when it's a peak utilization, does get pretty busy. What would your thoughts be about putting it on the Liftbridge Lane side so that way bikes could just pull off and cause a little bit less congestion?
I'm fine with that. It's, yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other question here. I also left off my resume, and I worked for about 5 years at my uncle's restaurant in Syracuse. Kitty
Okay.
Hoynes, great place if you've ever been there.
What was
Great
it
Irish pub. So I'm familiar with like the loading and the unloading and everything like that. What type of vehicles do you plan on having for your deliveries? Are they like big semis? Are they box trucks? Or what does that look like?
That would be a rolling question, box trucks and,
So let's do this. Let's have Roland come up, and do you mind coming up and chatting a bit about the restaurant and how you're going to operate it? So Roland is going to be the operator of the restaurant.
Okay, so first, good evening. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present the project for the former boiler house, right? So my name is Roland Perrin. I'm living in Pittsford. And Jason Snyder is my stepson, and he will he's operating the restaurant business for 20 years. And he will be the manager of the future restaurant here. So to tell us a little bit of my story rapidly, I spent all my life in the food business in France and in Europe. And we came back, because my wife is from Rochester. We came back to Rochester in 2011. And I wanted to find something to do, because I'm very bad in golf, so I have to. So I bought a business. There was 3 small restaurants called Colley's Cafes. And we start with that, and but we changed. It was a very good location, but we changed. The first one was on Park Avenue in Rochester, and we changed it in a gastropub. And Jason operated since there, and I would say it has been rapidly a success. Then the other one was still Colley's on Pittsford Plaza. And I changed it also because it was not doing very well. And which I changed it in a fast casual cafe, still cafe, fast casual, oriented on healthy product. And step by step, we increase quite a lot, and it works well. And then this year also, we are going to move in a bigger place in the center of the Pittsford Plaza. So we know the restaurant business is not an easy business, but it needs a lot of attention every day. I used to say every minute, because everything is in the detail. We know that the devil is in the detail in many businesses, but I think in restaurant is more than ever other business. I had a big business in Europe and in France, but I would say it was easy than this 3 little restaurant I had here. But anyway, we love it, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to come here in this beautiful village. I would say that we have a very beautiful place we still have a beautiful place on Park Avenue with the gastropub called Blue Wolf Bistro. The problem is that in the city of Rochester, the crime is going up. The parking lot, we talk a lot of parking lot, but there is none. So the traffic decreased a lot. And so we have a lease which ends at the end of the year. So I started to look at another opportunity because we don't see any improvement there, either for the criminality or with the parking. So I would say that in the Parquet there are right now 5 restaurants for sale, right? So it's not a good sign. So honestly, I didn't know Fairport before. We live in Pittsford, but I came once or two, and I love this village, and I love the dynamism you are impulsing in this village. It's fantastic. So we are not approaching this project in a short term. And we are making a long-term significant investment in the property and the community. The concept is intended to increase the attractiveness, create a job also. We are going to create a local job, general activity, economic activity, and I think it will become an asset for the surrounding community. So our goal is not to create an extra late bar. It's not that. We have plenty. It's not the goal, or simple bar. No, it's not. Our goal is to create a true dining destination in Fairport that appeal to professional couple, family, visitors, and residents looking for a higher-end dining experience along the Erie Canal. It's true that the location is fantastic, and we are sure we can do something very nice. Then there is also this historical building, which is beautiful, and along the canal, so it's really something important. And then we're going to add a cozy, warm ambience, a rooftop, which will be a big attraction, and we are sure of that. We are going to have also a deck in front and on the east side, but we'll do that. The deck will do that probably at the beginning of next year, because in winter we don't really need it. And I can brief also with the financing, because it's a big project. And so yes, it will be a new experience along the canal, the Erie Canal. So the restaurant, for the concept of the restaurant, it will be an upscale, chef-driven American restaurant with a strong focus on contemporary cuisine. like shareable plates, high quality entree and dessert. Quality is our first goal. Is that we expand. We are doing already, and so freshness. And we almost have no frozen product. Everything is fresh. We also have a beverage program. We complement the food with an emphasis on professionally prepared craft cocktails. Curated wine selection is my part. I'm a wine amateur, as a French, of course, and also cheese. It has been my business all my life long. And so premium spirits. So yes, overall we will offer sophisticated but approachable dining. We want guests to be equally comfortable coming in for fine food and cocktail, a business dinner, a family celebration, or a steak and glass of wine overlooking the canal. Is that our project? And we are very, very excited by this project.
If I can just jump in, if I could repeat Mr. Kako's question. Can you talk to us a little bit about the loading and unloading for deliveries and what size truck will be used?
So there is the entrance of the kitchen will be here. It will be here. So we have a space here. There is a ramp, so the truck can park along the ramp and then deliver to the kitchen. We check if there is enough space for the car to drive, so it's wide enough even with a big truck, and for the car to get out of the parking. And the reason why we put the entrance of the delivery for the restaurant at this place.
And what time do you anticipate deliveries occurring?
Generally is early in the morning.
Okay. And then I have another question. In the drawings and in conversations we've had about the roof, have you made a decision there on the site plan? It notes that there's two options. One would be full coverage and the other would be partial coverage. Have you made a decision?
Yeah, it will be a full coverage.
Full coverage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, by the way, we can use it longer in season. And eventually, we can also cover on the side with this kind of a plastic thing, which can finally use it all year long.
Sean, back to the deliveries.
If you could just speak into the microphone.
It's
Sorry.
the same distance they have on Lulu's side. They come in with tractor trailers, make it around that lot, and he'd possibly have not easier, but it's pretty much the same as when Lulu's gets a delivery. Possibly smaller trucks, I don't know.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Did you plan on marking off a loading zone specific for the truck?
It's currently a fire lane. They park in it. The truck's typically running.
Okay.
Yeah.
So already marked. Got
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's running and can
There's-
easily be moved if the fire
Yeah,
lane needs to
and
be
they-
utilized.
They often have two guys. A lot of the regional and a lot of those places have the two guys loading, unloading.
Okay.
And then refuse, how will you deal with that?
We have a dumpster over in the Fairport Junction parking lot that gets toted over there throughout the day. Lulu's does it. Other restaurants that were open
Across the street,
Yeah.
So
somewhere
it's
in there?
the same system where you have employees tote
Yeah.
around. Okay.
Where will the totes be stored?
The Lulu's stores theirs inside. I
Okay.
don't know where you're thinking about.
There is a spot underneath the existing stair. That was dedicated towards the
Inside.
inside.
So I think we're getting into just kind of all of our comments now, it seems like.
Yeah. Do you want to
Do-
start going through?
I would like to, if you guys are still comfortable with doing it the way that we had discussed previously. I think.
Please.
I didn't want to, did I interrupt anything or no?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm at site.
So we'll start with just kind of general comments and questions from a site plan standpoint. We do know that we want to be speaking about the parking plan as well. We're gonna, I think, do that afterwards. But I'm comfortable to start if you guys are. So basically my approach is if there is something that I have a question about that is related to site plan, I'm going to ask it. If there's something that I feel like I don't have a question about that's listed there, I'm going to leave that off. That does not mean that you guys cannot, obviously. But the first thing that I did want to talk about, and this has to relate to the arrangement of pedestrian traffic and circulation as it relates to the site. So on the first floor plan and also on your overall site plan, it appears as if there is, there's the loading area for the truck, there's that existing ramp that you're talking about, there's the extension of the sidewalk that's called out in the first floor plan. Is that going to be a way for pedestrians to access the entrance to the restaurant from Lift Bridge?
Where there will be loading and have
Like
the
through that loading area, kind of off the sidewalk from Lift Bridge, down the side of the building toward that entrance, which is close to the canal.
It'll be a separate, there'll be multiple entrances, but pedestrians or his customers will not be entering through around that.
They won't be entering that way.
Yeah.
Is there an access for pedestrians that's not just through the parking lot?
There currently isn't.
There
never
currently
has
is not,
been.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily saying that I think that there needs to be one, but I do think that it's something that should be considered. I think if we're talking about potential bicyclists and pedestrians utilizing this restaurant, coming from the village, from neighborhoods, I think folks coming and walking in along Lift Bridge Lane, there should be an obvious way for them to get to that door that's not diagonally walking across the parking lot, if there can be. Jill, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, and this I'm throwing out, I don't know if this is something that the planning board would want to consider. And on some occasions, when we've got situations with existing parking lots, it might be safe to line an area for pedestrians from Lift Bridge. Similar that you would line, just crosshash it so that cars it's giving the indication to
That there's a
vehicles not to
visual
park
cue,
there.
providing a
Correct.
visual cue, yeah.
So that might be a simple means to address your concerns. It's a hard site because it's existing paved area.
Exactly. I'm comfortable with that because I'm not in any way saying you must put a sidewalk down on one side of the building to get pedestrians from Lift Bridge. I do want it to be considered, and I want it to be thoughtfully considered. And I think if that's something that can be done, in a relatively pain-free, cost to you all, I think that makes sense. But I did want to bring that up because that was something that I noticed.
Yeah, without signage,
No signage.
right,
You guys don't review it.
no, it's hard to say, because I think that could be an informational sign, like you can line whatever you
Yes.
want, but it snows 6 months.
Yep. So
know,
maybe
that
also
would-
suggest informational signage that leads the pedestrian from Lift Bridge to the entrance.
I think that's another good consideration as well.
Can I go back, because we started on B, were there any comments with A?
None for me. I feel like it is, with the existing layout, with the existing parking lot there, from my perspective, there's not much that can be done to really change the way that circulation from a vehicle standpoint actually functions there. I have pretty intimate knowledge of that lot. So I didn't have any comments on that.
Okay.
Fellow board members? No.
I think I'm okay, I'm just trying to visualize this, so if I park in the lot, I would probably go to the south and walk along the curb to get to the door, right? Is that generally how we're thinking that would go?
If you're parking in the Casa lot, the Casa property lot?
Yep.
Yeah, I think you would probably walk down the aisle and then across if you're over here, or if you're here, down the
Like
aisle.
it was designed, yeah.
Yeah, as designed, and as it currently functions. So
As it
keep in mind,
functions, yeah.
this wasn't a vacant building, it had humans that
Yeah.
entered and exited. And so the traffic flow is what it is. I think
Yeah.
it's been well
No,
designed.
but it doesn't seem like there's a change, I guess, is kind of where. I was
Correct.
going
There
with
was the
that.
discussion about, additional box truck, now doing deliveries, but that has been, thought out by the applicant, and so they've
Yep.
made accommodations for that.
Yep, okay.
Let's move on to the location, arrangement, appearance, and sufficiency of off-street parking and loading areas.
So my suggestion, unless there's more we want to talk about as it relates to loading, would be to table this discussion for the parking plan. Because I think that that's going to occupy a lot of what we're going to want to ask and, have information on. We talked about loading a little bit. Is there anything else that we feel should be discussed as it relates to loading?
Well, and keep in mind that this one is specifically talking about the off-street parking, the on-site off-street parking.
This is talking just about the lot. This
Yep.
isn't talking about everything else that's in the parking plan as part of meeting the needs.
I did have one question about the signage on the lot itself. Would this be the appropriate spot to talk about it?
I think we can talk
Yeah.
about that at here, yeah, because D is right next, so I think that's fine.
Gotcha. So I've lived in the village for 4 or 5 years. Admittedly, the first year I lived in the village, I didn't realize that parking lot was just for the box factory only. So I was one of those guys. I apologize. Once I noticed the signage, it's not terribly clear to me that that is only for the box factory lot. Is there any consideration, because we're going to get into the analysis of the parking more later, but I think your parking plan is quite reasonable. Is there any consideration to improving the signage to emphasize that this is for the box factory and this restaurant only? Because I think that'll kind of help free up space and get, people like me 5 years ago from parking where they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I would love that. So I'm good with putting a giant sign, appropriate sized sign out for that. We do allow Donnelly's, TK, everybody else to park there.
Okay, good, because I was going to
I mean-
Donnelly's, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I jump back to C? Did we have any thoughts on C as it relates to the the off-street and that particular parking lot?
I think a lot of my thoughts on the off-street parking for that lot specifically relate to the general parking plan
Okay.
personally, and
Okay.
everything else that is a part of that. I don't know if you guys have anything specific on, yeah. As far as D is concerned, the next one, location, arrangement, size, design of buildings, lighting and signs, I think I have very little to say here. If anything, the building is existing. It's been there, the lighting is pre-existing, and, functions fairly well. The one thing that I will say, I know signage is not proposed as part of this. Is there a sign that is going to be for this restaurant somewhere in the future? Is that something that has been determined, has yet to be determined?
They have 5 spaces along the canal, like BME had 8, and then same thing with the residential. We're gonna
Okay.
add space for
Are we,
residential.
did we,
I'm-
signage or signed parking spaces?
I'm talking about signage specifically. I know that is something
Okay.
that is outside of our purview, but I'm just curious.
Correct. So the applicant has considered locations for signage, and as long as they comply with the sign portion of the zoning code, then a permit
Yeah.
can be issued. If they don't, then they will have to go before the zoning board of appeals or administrative adjustment.
Yep, and that was more for my own curiosity, not for anything that we have any purview over here anymore, thankfully. Let's see. Next one, type and arrangement of trees, shrubs, other landscaping. I did have a question about this. I know that you show the outdoor patio space adjacent to the canal. I know there's some trees kind of somewhere in that area. Are there any trees that are going to
Yeah,
need to be
so-
removed?
So in fact, there are 2 big trees on each side.
Yep.
And there are 3 little trees in the middle, which are not really in good shape. So the idea is to take these 3 trees in the middle and to keep the 2 on each side, which provide also some shade.
Shade,
And the other one are really in the middle. They are not, again, not in good shape. So I think it will be good this way. And we will put umbrellas, of course. So.
Okay. Yeah, the 2 larger ones were the ones I was thinking of, and I was hoping they'd be retained. Okay, I know it's, the site is what the site is, and there's not a lot of space to play with from a landscaping standpoint. I think, you showed about what you can, so there's not much that I'm really looking to suggest in that regard. Thoughts on that one, guys? Good. I think for me, some of the next few don't really apply. Certainly the next one doesn't apply in terms of apartment house, townhouse, multiple dwelling. It's mixed use, but it's not any of those. So the playground obviously doesn't apply. Stormwater management, sanitary waste disposal. This is an existing facility that, from what I've known, functions well in that regard. If anybody has any other opinions on that.
Is there a concern of the patio now going from pervious to impervious?
Impervious. For me, it's small enough that I don't particularly see it as a significant increase to stormwater. I could be wrong there. And the materials that you are using for that patio, do you have them planned out, what you're planning on it?
It is not totally determined yet, but it will be probably, what is called not wood, but,
Trex.
yeah.
Okay, so Trex, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not completely impermeable, is that true? It's semi-permeable? Yeah.
It'll be a deck, not concrete.
Yep.
If you could, just so everybody knows, you've got to speak into the microphone only because it's recorded.
It'll be a deck, not concrete patio.
Okay.
Okay.
So in that case, if we're thinking about, is there still the ability for water to drain? There would still be the ability for water to drain.
No, that's good to know.
Yep, that puts me at ease. Adequacy of water supply, I think we're good there. Structures, roadways, landscaping in areas with moderate to high susceptibility of flooding. I think we talked about this in terms of stormwater. I don't think that there's significant flooding concerns or ponding here. Protection of adjacent properties against noise, glare, unsightliness, or other objectionable features. Do you guys have anything there? I know there's a rooftop
What we've done
location,
in the
but
past, and it might make sense here, is just condition the approval on the business hours. So it can't ultimately turn into a 2 a.m. establishment.
So are you concerned about the outdoor area becoming an issue?
I think in the later evening establishments, you have an environment of coming and going that creates just as much of a concern as the environment itself.
So I would hesitate to condition it on hours of operation because I think you are covered if you condition it on compliance with the noise ordinance.
yeah, and
So
that's where I
that's
thought you
truly
were
the
headed.
key.
I
Yeah.
would agree.
Which I think is fine. I think in the past we have done that. I've never felt completely comfortable with limiting to a specific set hours of business, hours of operation.
Sure.
I also think with this location, I know there's some residences around, but I also know that immediately adjacent there's that office building. Donnelly's is right across the street. It abuts the parking lot on the other side. I think that there, as far as actually having properties of concern in terms of potential noise from an open rooftop, I think there are minimal.
I hear ya. I just think looking back, more conditions might have done us good.
Well,
in
so
the
let's
long
talk a
term.
little bit about the noise ordinance. The noise ordinance is enforced by the police department. So the blessing with that is that the police are 24/7. If you're putting a requirement such as hours of operation, that would be enforced by the code enforcement officer, which would have to, somehow we'd have to have evidence that they had been open past the hours. I think what you're trying to get at is maintain a peaceful atmosphere so things don't get out of control and turn into Animal House, right? And so I think the best bet is to utilize the noise ordinance for that. I think that's a more effective tool.
I would tend to agree.
Well, then we wouldn't condition it on that. That's just law, isn't it?
Well, I think it's always good to remind. So the current code has been, the code states that accessory outdoor seating areas, which this would be, have to comply with the noise ordinance. I think when you're conditioning something on it, it's a nice little reminder.
Yeah, and my argument would just be, using the same exact logic, put the hours on there, because that's what we were pitched at time of approval. And I think just looking back, had we put more condition on what we were pitched at time of approval, we may not have all the same issues that we have today. Just my experience from sitting up here. I understand your argument.
Yup, and I hear where you're coming from. This is my concern. When we are then putting hours of operation on an establishment that has a liquor license, we are then overruling New York State, which we can't do.
Two very separate. That's to sell liquor.
I know it sounds separate, however, I've been involved in court cases where a municipality has lost because of trying to regulate the hours of operation for an establishment that has authority by the state liquor authority to serve.
Yeah, that's
So again, that's why I
very
emphasize the noise ordinance is the best bet, because I understand the concern of you don't want it to get out of control.
So if any business gets a liquor license, they can stay open as long as they want.
They can stay open as long as the liquor authority allows them to. So in Monroe County, it's 2
It
a.m.
doesn't matter what our local conditions are.
If it's an outdoor area, we might be able to do that. In this case, this is a weird situation where it has a covered roof. I would advise the planning board to ensure that we have a defensible decision to stick with the noise ordinance and not regulate the hours.
And here's where I feel that it is a defensible decision. I think context in this scenario is what I'm looking at, and the context of the building, of its surroundings, of the canal right there, I think mitigates any potential concerns to a large degree when it comes to noise. So I think that context makes it way more defensible to say, we have a noise ordinance, we're going to condition you on following that noise ordinance that's on the books already, rather than condition them to
Now,
anything.
and let's say that they repeatedly violate the noise ordinance and there is several calls for service and tickets issued by the police department. That means that then they are not in compliance with the condition that's been set by the planning board. So that means that we're going to have a discussion about it, because you're now not in compliance with the decision.
You know?
And to me, in that hypothetical scenario, I think then it makes great sense to revisit this discussion of hours of operation, to say, you have not been in compliance with our noise ordinance, however many times. At the time of approval, we discussed hours of operation, and now we're going to revisit that because we need something stronger than the noise ordinance to actually be able to tamp this down.
Yeah, and the scenarios I'm thinking about in my head where this has become an issue. And I don't know.
I live right over there.
Giving you an out, you don't want it.
Do we have
But
the
this has
ability
very
to?
little to actually do with you guys. I'm sorry that you're the victim of this.
Well, and keep in mind that when we have applications before any board, that it's judge it on its own merits, right? So until an applicant or a land use demonstrates that they are unable to comply with requirements or conditions, set those conditions so that they're reasonable,
Yeah.
right, based on what you are hearing.
Yeah, I worry about the next guy,
Well, again, that's where the blessing of the noise ordinance comes in, because if we are seeing that whoever is operating that building is a repeat offender, then we're gonna have a different conversation.
Because Chris will be on a beach somewhere and we'll be dealing with whoever leaves us
We
with,
could
and,
theoretically all be on the beach somewhere.
Can I comment on that? So I
On the
was
beach?
lucky enough to pick him. I had a line of people, which is great in the, I'm sure you know, in the commercial
Oh,
business,
yeah.
be able to choose your tenant. At the Box Factory, we've had 7 restaurants, unfortunately, come through there, and a lot of bars, and we turn it down. My father's wishes has always been that this is gonna pass generation to generation, and I will honor that even if I'm going broke. I'll do what I need to do to hold on to that building, that property, pass it on to my children, and hopefully they pass it on to their children and respect my wishes.
Oh,
But
that's great.
I chose him mainly based on his experience and what his concept was.
Yeah.
And I turned down a lot of people.
No, it's an
'Cause I don't want that
exciting
problem either.
opportunity. Yeah, no, I love what you're doing. I think, as much as this is painful for you guys to probably stand there and listen to all this, it's because of issues we've had in the past.
Yeah.
And if it's any consolation, we're gonna make the next guy go through the same, and we're probably gonna have it a little bit more worked out, so it's good protection for you in the future, so if you can tolerate me while we get through this, I appreciate it. So,
To address Joseph's point, that we have the ability to condition not using just the outdoor area past a certain amount of time, instead of putting a condition on the entire operation of the restaurant.
I would hesitate to do that at this point. You know, again, if we find that they're repeat offenders of that noise ordinance, then we're gonna have a different discussion, and then it might be appropriate. And then I would also seek out an opinion from legal counsel to ensure that that was a defensible decision that was made.
Yeah.
I would love to know more about that, because I would like to put the hours, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna die on the hill. but
Yep.
We've done it in the past, and maybe we shouldn't have, but I kinda like holding the landlord's feet to the fire on that, saying, no, this is what you agreed to, you come back, and if things are going well, then it's not a problem to extend hours. If things aren't,
Understood, and I think that if this was a specially permitted use, you could make the argument that that was part of mitigation, and that might suffice,
but if they're asking
should,
for a change of use,
well,
then
but it's different, right? So this
I
is,
understand.
these are
I-
two permitted uses, we have apartments and we have a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So you may be able to, if it was a specially permitted use, have that conversation that hours would be mitigating something.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it's permitted as of right. And again, my experience has been that you can't override state liquor authority, so we can't limit their ability.
Yeah, I'd
Now,
like to dig into that though a little bit, because I think
I'm,
it gives
I'm,
us,
I'm happy to. You know, as I stated, I've had experience where something along these lines was pursued and it was taken to court
I could
and
see
the
that,
municipality
yeah.
lost
Yeah. Is this in your book? Yeah,
because going over state liquor authority.
no, I totally get it, I hear you.
Yeah, when, in general with me, whenever I know the state has authority over something, I get very cautious on trying to override that or trying to go outside those bounds in any way. And this applies, you know, to things beyond the New York State Liquor Authority, but that is, you know, a very big concern. I think what is nice about this as an alternative is conditioning that noise ordinance gives us something to point to so that if there is an issue, we can revisit this site plan. We can revisit what was approved because the condition is not being upheld.
Correct. Do we want to go on, let's see, we're at J. Do we want to go on to K?
Impact on neighborhood include, I think that this is very compatible with everything in that area. I think from a design, from a use standpoint, it's an existing building, so the design is, you know, been there for a long, long, long time. We talked a bit about preservation of natural features, including the trees. I'm happy to hear that those two large trees are going to be preserved and reused, repurposed for, you know, better shade use rather than just a single picnic table that I think is out there now from BME. So I'm good with that one. How do you guys feel about that item?
I'm good.
Agreed.
Feel similarly to the last one that we have here before we get into the parking plan, conformance with the comp plan, and other plans. I should also mention conformance with the new code. I think that it's obviously fitting there. So I don't take any issue there. I think that it's in line with what we're trying to do as a village and what we have been in that area of the canal for a long time. Okay. You guys ready to talk parking?
Sure.
Okay. So for this, we can certainly do the same thing where we go line by line. I'm happy to do so. If you guys want to talk about just the parking plan holistically, I think we can also do that.
Andy, before we jump in, if I
Yeah.
could just talk briefly about
go
the
right ahead,
updated
please.
code and explain how the code looks differently at parking. And so this is for the benefit of not only those folks that are in the audience, but also for those folks that might be watching at home or choose to watch this in a week or two from home. So historically, previous codes have indicated use and number of parking spaces required. The updated zoning code that was adopted in February takes a different look at parking and puts the onus on that applicant or operator of that use to provide what their parking requirement is and how they intend to meet that. And they're able to do that through a series of options that include, obviously, off-street and on-site parking, public parking, shared parking agreements, on-site vehicle rental, pedestrian-oriented use and location, and shuttle valet parking. So there are a number of options that somebody can choose. So the intent with that was, we are not operators of restaurants, we're not operators of retail establishments. We want folks to tell us what that requirement is. Now, one might say, well, so what if the applicant decides to make up a story and it doesn't make sense? It behooves the applicants that are before the planning board to really consider and think about their application and how their business functions to ensure that they are providing adequate parking, because if they don't, their plan, their business will likely fail because of it. So what you have before you is a parking plan that takes all of those factors in consideration and sits down and says, okay, this is a lot that is anchored by two structures, being the box factory and the old boiler house, and in between that is a parking lot. And across the street is a public parking lot, and there's on-street parking, and it sits on the canal. So all of that was factored in to create a parking plan that's before you. So that's what the planning board is looking at. You're looking at that, does that comply with code and make sense? So this is a little bit of like writing with your non-dominant hand, because this is something we're not accustomed to. So I think it's a great idea to go through those standards and have a discussion about the plan.
I agree.
Can I start with a general question to the applicant? Under the proposed solution, under the estimated parking need, the number that was that you came to was 107, I believe. 8 for the apartments, 99 for the restaurant. Can you speak a little bit about what went into that calculation? I know a lot of the things that were considered, obviously, in terms of your solutions for the parking plan, but can you speak a little bit to the methodology a little bit, just so that we can have a better perspective?
Basically, we started off with our first floor restaurant, and we have a conceptual layout right now. And based off of that, we added up the total seats to get the total number for the restaurant, including the staff provided by Roland. And then, of course, for the apartments, we have the 6 units that are planned for, with 2 additional for guests. And we considered the guest usage to be selective, where it is just more predominantly the 6 units themselves for the residential, and getting us to that 107 number.
Okay, so it seems like a lot of what work went into this was the actual utilization of the space, how the space is going to be laid out, how many seats you're going to have, and then extrapolating the number of vehicles from that. Obviously, knowing that one seat does not equal 1 vehicle. I figured that would be an assumption.
Correct.
Yep. The residential spaces, I do, and I don't want to belabor this too much, but I do want to ask. They're small apartments. I think the biggest one is, like you mentioned earlier, somewhere around 600 square feet, not very large. Now, these could all be single vehicle occupant apartments. They could be young couples who have 2 vehicles. So it could be a situation where you're looking at potentially where are 12 vehicles going rather than 6. Not a huge number, but with having only 8 dedicated spaces for those, are you confident that all of the other solutions that you put in here in terms of on-street, off-site parking, everything that's gone into that calculation can absorb those remaining spaces for, say, 6 additional cars?
I feel that's the case.
Yeah.
Previously, the code had required 2 spots per apartment. Did that go away with the new code?
Correct. So in terms of, if you flip through the code, there are parking requirements, and those are for uses that are in a residential district. So that was purposeful, because we don't want to burden the residential districts, and there are some uses that are allowed there that are not residential in nature. So for dwelling units, the requirement is 1 space per dwelling unit. So if we're using that same methodology for an application like this, we would assign it 1 space per dwelling unit, if this was in a residential district. One of the other things that I want to point out is that on page 29, it's noted that we will add a storage room for the residential occupants that can be used for bicycles. So there is going to be interior bike storage too for those residential uses. One of the things that we're seeing as planners is that in the United States, there's a decrease in folks that are actually getting their driver's license. And so we know that more people are using bikes, more people are utilizing public transportation. We actually have 8 RTS bus stops on Main Street, which is significant. So it's conceivable that if somebody between 20 and 30 is going to decide to live in Fairport and they're going to live in one of these apartments, that they may have one vehicle and they may choose to use alternative transportation. And I'm not just limiting that to somebody that's 20 to 30, but it could be 20 to 80, right?
One thing we're also seeing a bit more as planners is folks who are self-selecting both places they live and places they work, and if they work from home, even better, places where there are bicycle amenities, places where they have good bike storage because they already have a bike, because they might not have a license. And that, I think, is something that is worth mentioning, but I did just want to make sure that that was something you guys had considered when you were looking at your calculation, just knowing that that could be a possibility there.
I think what I like to see, though, is give me the worst-case scenario number of spots you would need. And then that logic then is how you work into the approval of why this works here. We're seeing all these, different scenarios. Here's where we're going to put car,
Yeah, and I hear that, and argue that based on the current code, one could surmise that the applicant has done that. Because if we're saying that in a residential district, 1 dwelling unit requires 1 parking space.
Yes,
they've done that, right?
But now with that, going back, if you counted the number of seats on here, you're more than 90.
Well, that's just for
So-
residential, right? So for commercial, we're looking at reviewing it differently.
Right, so do we have a count per
One-
occupancy now? I think we did before.
We don't now.
Okay.
So that's, again, why we're asking them, we're saying, hey, you know your restaurant best. What is your turnover? How many do you anticipate that people are eating by themselves and bringing a book and traveling 1 person per vehicle? I think the reality is there's probably going to be a minimum of 2 persons per vehicle for most cases,
Okay,
unless you're
yeah.
meeting out a friend.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. I'm trying to.
You're asking good questions.
You are.
You're the
You are.
first one. I'm sorry, guys.
This is the first.
This is
I
Jill's
explained to
fault.
them. No, I explained to them that this is a good opportunity to have the planning board run through this, and it's a good opportunity for me too to hear what are the interests of the planning boards as I guide the applicants to create their applications.
It bears repeating that this is the first application that we've heard with the new parking plan. That is, I think, what we're getting at, what we're saying. In addition, Joe, I think it behooves us to also try to reframe our minds in terms of how we operated as a planning board and how, planning boards have operated currently and in the past for a long, long time, is we look to very dated zoning code requirements in terms of number of spaces that were based on, you can't even really call it pseudoscience, it was kind of based on nothing. It was kind of based on copycat, and that's what led to a lot of asphalt and a lot of surface parking that was unneeded. So I think moving forward, we want to make sure that we're thinking about not necessarily the worst case scenario, but what they think their needed scenario is, and holding that to the fire more. So making sure that they did go through their due diligence, they did look at everything, rather than what could possibly be, the Black Friday scenario for parking.
Sure.
That's a very great point.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think in the back of my mind, though, is the impact on other businesses. If, not that this is what they're doing, but if they were incorrect for whatever reason or had intentionally deceived us, that impact might not be on their business. It could be on multiple other entities within the village. And that's in the back of my mind when they give us that number and say, this is what we think. I do think there is some onus on us to rationally look at that and say
Yep.
that makes sense.
Yep, and that's exactly how you should be viewing it. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Now, as far as, let's suppose they underestimated. That's a situation then when, just like I would do today, if we have an existing business that says, you know what, I'm actually finding that I need more parking, that's when I encourage them to look at the other lots that are near them and sign parking agreements. So we have, when we created the code, I was very curious and wanted to know how much paved area do we have in our commercial area, our commercial downtown. And I included not only the public lots, but also those private lots. So we have a number of lots that might accommodate at max 10 vehicles, but that's still paved area and it's still accommodating vehicles. In our commercial area, there's 21 acres of pavement. And if we consider that being, for each acre, you could hypothetically park 100 vehicles. That's potentially 2,100 vehicles that could park in our downtown area, not including on-street parking. So this is an opportunity. It's ripe for parking agreements, for shared parking to occur. And so the code really encourages people to consider that. We are still stuck in a moment where we are convinced that the only way that somebody can go to a restaurant, a retail establishment, et cetera, is if they are parking in front of that door.
It's convenient parking.
It's
not
convenient parking,
Yeah.
right? So there's a difference. And so what we want to emphasize and what we're emphasizing in this code is that it doesn't have to be all accommodated on site. And we want you to consider shared parking, valet parking, Uber, Lyft, et cetera, and ensure that we're not creating additional paved area. So when we talk about sustainability and we talk about ensuring that we're not having drainage issues in the village, it's not creating more paved area.
I couldn't agree with you more. So with that then, and I'm not saying it's applicable here, but would it be part of our purview then to require those agreements as part of site plan approval or change of use or any of that?
So this is how I would look at that. If you go through the parking plan and we still have to go through those standards, and at the end of it you say, you know what, we still feel there's a gap, then you may want to consider requiring a parking agreement as a condition and set the number of parking spaces. So I would encourage you, if you feel that there is a gap, don't just say go out and secure a parking agreement. I think it behooves the planning board to say, we feel that you're short X number of parking spaces, so go get a parking agreement for this number of parking spaces, right? I think that's only fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to go through and think about how we've heard how the business operates. We've heard how they intend to accommodate those spaces that they've dictated based on their plan, and evaluate whether or not that's reasonable. And if at the end you feel that's not reasonable, I think you have options. You can condition the approval, or you could say, we want to hold this, we want you to go back and work on the parking plan. But I really encourage you to, let's go through those standards and let's talk about those and see if what they've provided is reasonable for the planning
Well,
board.
Andy's asking a lot of questions and slowing us down, so.
It's my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all on me. So then let's go through the parking plan. Let's go through it to start.
So the parking plan, the eligible means of meeting parking demand, potential means to be considered include but are not limited to. So when we're going through this list, it doesn't mean that you have to provide each one of them, but this is like the menu of items you can choose from.
That's correct. So first one, the obvious one, the on-site off-street parking. We know it shares a lot of uses, obviously, in that area. We've seen the calculations that you do. Do you guys have questions about that in terms of what's been included in their parking plan for the for the on-site off-street parking?
Yeah, just for clarification, that max utilization figure, remind me what that is again?
Flip back and
Is that the 107?
think
I'm
it's
flipping over here.
available.
Yep, so they talk about the estimated parking need being a total of 107. The restaurant needing 99, 9 for staff and 90 for patrons, and apartments 8.
And what's the total availability?
So they have, the proposed solution totals 107.
Okay.
And this is on page 28.
You
And this
mean
is not, I'm
the lot.
calling out the
Yeah,
pages,
the
There's
pages not only for
102
the
in the
benefit.
lot, Sean.
102 in the lot, okay, and that figure that you provided for the utilization, that is the maximum utilization you could have, or is that your projected on a normal night?
Those are the current spots that were counted.
I believe the question is, the 107, is that gonna be a typical night, or is that your max capacity?
That's more towards the max.
That would be
Okay.
more towards max, okay.
Yes, that was my question, thank you for
Yes.
the help.
And then, where you say designated, what does that mean? On-site designated spots?
There would be signage designating spots for restaurant, ride share, et cetera.
Okay, all right, so I don't see that anywhere, but that is something that you're going to incorporate as part of this project.
So I believe it is actually at the, if you look at the paragraph that says designated and posted spaces, I'm sorry, on
Yeah.
page 28.
Yeah.
It talks about, the parking lot is presently posted at its 2 entries with signage declaring the parking lot is private for the use of the box factory tenant customer parking only. The post is enforced with the statement, all others will be towed at owner's expense. Finally, a sign informs that public parking across street. Prevention of loss from public use of the parking lot who are not using on-site businesses will be further reinforced by posted parking spots. There will be 8 spaces designated for the apartments and 9 designated for the proposed restaurant. So if you recall from visiting the site, there's currently signage that noted that those spots were for BME. So what the
Okay.
applicant is proposing is that the spaces that were previously designated for BME would then be designated for
For
the
these
proposed
uses.
restaurant and the apartments.
Perfect, I guess that answers my question, thank you.
I had the same question, thanks, Joe. Okay, I'm good with the lot, I think I have all the information I need there. How do you guys feel? Move on to the next one? Okay. So next is public parking, off-street and on-street. I know there's the junction lot that was included in terms of the number of figures there. I can't remember off the top of my head, 70-something. There's Lot D, the very small lot, in terms of public lots that are really, really close. Now, I know the parking plan indicates within 1,000 feet.
Well, so within here, in the code, it does talk about.
Oh, that's shared
For
off-street.
shared off-street parking spaces, but I think it's acceptable to consider 1,000 feet, within 1,000 feet of that particular use. So there are a number of public lots within 1,000 feet, one of them being the Village Hall lot. If you think it's just a quick walk over Parker Street Bridge to Lift Bridge.
It is. Yeah, that's a good point. Do we have the numbers for that? We do, 218, yep. So it totals 346, I remember that number. So that's a significant amount of public parking that's all very close for my money. And now we're talking about, 3 lots that are probably less than a 5-minute walk from the furthest space.
Yeah, I think I like where you're going. I
Yep.
just think it's important to note that those were some of the most utilized lots in the parking study, so,
Except for the Village Hall lot, which was, I think, the least utilized, or
so-
close to it.
Yeah, I think people forget that it's an option.
That's true.
Something to keep in mind that, and I included a link to the parking study in the memo and all that data so that you had it available, is that the village has almost 1,000 public parking spaces off-street. Again, not including those that are on-street. So that's a significant number for a village of our size. Now, again, there are lots, as noted in the study, that are over capacity, so to speak. So we shoot for an 80%, because then we know somebody could pull into the parking lot. They might have to loop around once or twice, but they could pull into a spot. So there are spaces, lots that fill up, namely the one nearest the cannery. This property is a distance from the cannery.
Donald Shoup, may rest in peace, would say 95% is fine. But yeah, I think 80% is a good number for
The
for
parking
this
study
context.
noted 80%.
I think for this context for the village, it makes good sense. But we're not litigating that right now. Let's see. Do you guys have comments on the public parking, the available public parking around? I think covered that pretty good.
No, I think it's a concern, but I think, we're good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shared parking, I do want to talk here a little bit about the lot that's immediately to the east. I think that it's all office uses, I believe, so I think that that would be a perfect compatible option for a shared agreement, should you need it. I know that you noted that that has been, you had that discussion, at least preliminarily, but it's something that you would revisit if there was a financial need to do so, I believe is the way it was put. I think if there's going to be a shared lot or a shared use, that is the perfect option. I think I don't know how many spaces are over there because I don't think they're marked, if I recall correctly. But I think that could serve as the ideal and natural overflow parking. If people are, as we talked about, going to want to try to get right up to the door, that's about as close as you can get without being the actual lot that's associated with the restaurant. So I did want to ask you guys, as far as reaching out to them and having that conversation, what did that entail? Or is that just something that you're kind of keeping in your back pocket?
Keeping it in the back pocket for now.
Okay.
And for what we counted, there's 30 spots,
Okay.
potential additional spots.
So when I say keeping it back, was there a conversation? Did you have a conversation? Go ahead.
I've
Sorry,
had
Chris.
conversations with him in the past about
Okay.
TKs and Donnelly's, and, he doesn't charge them anything. I'd be happy to, do what I needed to do to.
Yeah. Okay. I'm comfortable with that as a, break glass in case you need it option. And then even more comfortable hearing there's 30 spaces there. I didn't even realize there were that many. I would have guessed like 15. As far as other shared lots, I don't think that other than that one, which was identified, I don't think that there are a ton of good options. Close enough?
There's a private lot that I can sign an agreement, and he can use that within the 500 feet or 1,000 feet.
Your private lot, which,
24 North Main Street.
so, okay. I would say no to that.
Okay.
The reason being is because we have a use, the coffee house, that operates the same hours as the restaurant. So an appropriate shared parking is, as described, the office space that operates on different hours than the restaurant. So this is a good learning opportunity for the planning board.
Does the coffee shop's hours overlap?
I think they close at 5 or 6.
Oh, I thought they were open till 9. Did they
Initially,
change?
Yeah.
That
Well,
was the first year, I feel like. of
Okay, so then
operation.
that is an option. So when we talk about shared parking, we don't want to double count parking. So let's say Donnelly said, you know what, we'd love to make an extra $40,000 a month and we'll lease out our spaces. That would be an inappropriate shared parking agreement because the hours of operation are the same. Those parking spaces are spoken for that time period. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else on shared parking, guys? Okay. Location shared parking spaces. I think we've talked about the 1,000 feet.
Yeah, these are actually all related to shared parking. So then we go to 4, which is mixed-use development. And certain uses have peak demands at different times, and the applicant may demonstrate the demand for proposed uses are non-competing. So within the parking plan, the applicant talked about Lulu and what their requirement might be. One of the things that was not included in the parking plan, at least I didn't read it, was that Lulu doesn't operate both the outdoor space and that indoor space at the same time. So that means we're having a limited number of folks that could patronize that establishment.
What would occur in the situation where, for example, your office would become another restaurant and have the exact same hours? Now, would that even trigger another review?
So let's
of
say
this?
in the Box Factory, there was another restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be a change of use within a structure that's greater than 4,000, and we'd have to have a conversation per code.
Okay.
Okay, so the change of use part is really important.
So that would trigger another parking review?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, it's almost all of Chris's burden to bear, but I'm just sorry, you're the first one.
No, we've dealt with that in the past. When we bought the building, there was a church. And we had to get rid of a church.
Yeah,
going down.
that building's had a few lives, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and it was because of the Village Cafe at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, they were awarded, they were their first kind of
Yeah.
type thing.
Was that even pre-Towpath Cafe?
Oh, yeah, there's been 5 restaurants since.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Was there any additional on item 4?
No,
Okay.
not for me.
On-site vehicle rental. So this, I would say, is you can liken this to Uber, Lyft.
Yeah, and there is a space that's going to be designated for rideshare, right?
Yeah.
A single space for which, I mean, I don't think you'd want to take away more than that. I think providing a space where it's going to be quick drop off, quick pickup makes sense. I was curious because I haven't really seen that before. Is that something that you have done in the past that has worked to great success? Is that something that's kind of new that you're trying out? I haven't seen many, specific designated spaces for rideshare.
I have not tried it myself, but just adding it to a consideration.
Interesting. Okay.
That would be.
I've seen it done on sites.
You have? No. I think it's a cool idea, and I do think that, as someone who lives in the village, I think the amount of Lyfts and Ubers since, I don't know, 21, 22 has doubled, tripled, who knows, a lot. So I think that's a good consideration.
And I think if a patron knows that it's an easy pickup spot, they're more likely to use it.
Yeah. You guys have other thoughts on that?
Nope.
Pedestrian-oriented use and location, I think we've talked quite a bit about this, but I'm happy if you guys want to talk more.
Nope,
No?
I'm good.
And then shuttle valet parking. I have no real big thoughts on this. I think that it's an interesting idea. I think that it can be tricky to pull off, but I think that the whole complement of everything that you guys have included is a lot, so I'm not going to belabor too much on an item like that.
And I think keep in mind too that for some locations, shuttle and valet is going to work and be appropriate, and for some it's just not. So in this case, it wasn't included in the parking plan.
Yep, and I think that makes sense, because like I said, I think it's tricky to really make it work well. Okay. Do you guys have other general thoughts as it relates to parking?
No, I think the big one, and it seemed like Mr. Casa was enthusiastic about it, was just signage about not parking there unless you're going there. And then I like that too, from just a sense of if there is an issue with the tenant about the parking, it's more of most likely an enforcement issue, not, we don't have enough spot issue.
Right, I think the figure of 8 spots for the tenants is the most prudent use of space, because you don't want to have a parking spot reserved when somebody's not going to be using it. That's taking away parking from the business. I think that's honestly the most optimal situation for the residents there.
One thing we also neglected to comment on, but I think is good, is the encouraging of employees to park off-site, to not take prime parking spaces. I think that's something that we're starting to see a little bit more regularly, and it's something that I think makes a huge difference. Taking away those optimal spots for vehicles that will be there for 5, 6, 7, 8-hour shifts can be a drag. So I appreciate that was in there too.
Are there any additional questions for the applicant?
No, I think we're good.
Do you have any additional comments that you'd like to make? Okay, because what we're going to do, I warn everyone, we're going to close the hearing, which means that you can't interact with the board anymore or make any more comments. So this is the last time you have the opportunity to say anything. I'm not saying that you have to say anything, but I want to make sure that that's clear. Okay, so would the planning board like to close the public hearing portion?
Yes.
Okay, so then we are going to ask for anyone in support of the application. Anyone in opposition to the application? Any additional comments or thoughts from the planning board that you want to discuss?
You wanna review just potential conditions quickly? to
Yup,
get
that's,
through that?
so I always highlight, I listen to what you guys say.
Do you wanna, yeah,
Some of the things that I think you might want to list as conditions, I'm going to go right off of the memo that was provided first. Let me get there. So the proposed deck on the south side of the structure nearest the canal must be reviewed and approved by the Canal Authority prior to the issuance of a permit for construction. Per the zoning code, the outdoor seating areas must comply with chapter 330 noise ordinance, and so this would also include that outdoor deck area, should that be pursued. No refuse shall be stored outside of the structure. Existing access to the canal path shall be maintained at all times. Also, placement of a bike rack near Lift Bridge Lane. Now, as far as the roof goes, as you see on the site plan, there are two options. Does the planning board want to declare that either option is acceptable, or would you like to condition the approval on the full coverage roof as noted by the applicant?
you are proposing that we're conditioning it upon all these other, alterations as proposed, right?
Yep, yep. Well, the application as submitted, and then these are additional.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I necessarily care much either way.
Okay.
I do think there's a lighting thing that might need to be a consideration with that, and I would leave it up to the discretion of, like, code enforcement to review to make sure it doesn't pollute any other neighbors or anything.
So why don't we do this? On condition that either option 1 or 2 are acceptable, with lighting that is
Limits spillage or.
directed
There you go.
down.
Directed down.
and does not spill
Mhm.
onto neighboring properties.
Yeah, I like that.
Does that work?
I think so.
Okay. All right, and then we have, do you want the pedestrian area to be striped, the walkway? Okay.
I would like it to be.
Do you want informational signage to be included that leads to an entrance? That can also be a recommendation, so it doesn't have to be a condition.
How do you feel, Joe?
I just hate that,
Or Sean?
I hate striping, because it's only good when it's not covered, you know?
And it could also be a recommendation.
But I also like, if I could candidly see all the signage on the building, you might say, oh, that's gonna be intuitive, you don't need anything else. You know what I'm saying? So, I
Leave it
don't
as a
know.
recommendation.
I think it sounds like a recommendation.
For both the striping and the signage?
Yes, I
Okay.
think that's fine. I would like the striping to be there, but I think recommending it, you guys have heard, where we're coming from there.
Consideration to improve signage. Okay, so I have highlighted condition to improve signage, but I think that was covered in the parking plan where it was detailed. I had heard concern about the signage related to the parking spaces, but that was detailed in the parking plan. So is that sufficient for the planning board in terms of dictating that certain spaces are for the restaurant and for the apartments?
I think there's two, there's the designated spots as outlined, as
Yep.
proposed.
Yep,
And then there's the,
It's a lot itself.
additional private parking. you know.
yep. And that's noted in the parking plan. Do you want additional lot signage that states it's simply for those two structures? Okay,
Yes.
is that a recommendation or a condition?
I would like that to be a condition.
I think that should
I would
be
like it as a
conditioned.
condition
Yeah.
as well, because as I read it in the plan here, it says the parking lot is presently posted at the two entries with signage. I think we want a condition on a upgrade.
Okay,
And is that fine to say, I would like you and code enforcement to review that signage, not, that would, to your,
per,
Satisfaction.
yes, to be reviewed and approved by zoning officer. Okay. Let me just do my own little highlighting here. Okay, and then there was a discussion about shared parking. Do you want that, it's acknowledged in the parking plan that it's sort of the safety valve for them, that neighboring property? Do you want to recommend it? Do you not want to note it at all? I do have it highlighted because there was a discussion about it.
I'd like it recommended and at least included in the final parking plan as, you know, like we talked about it, as a safety valve, as a, you know, if needed, we'll pursue this.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Noise ordinance, did you say that?
Yep, so per zoning code, the outdoor seating areas must comply with chapter 330 noise ordinance.
Okay, and then do we have to, and I'm sorry, I know we kind of talked about this, but do we have to bring up materials, or is that automatically implied?
It's
based on the
automatically
code?
implied, but, yep.
Perfect.
I think I might want to update this because we say outdoor seating areas. Outdoor seating area and rooftop bar must comply with chapter 330 noise ordinance.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I say that because outdoor areas,
What if it's enclosed?
now that we're hearing that there's going to be potentially a full roof, I want to make sure we have it covered. Okay, does anybody want me to read all those conditions again?
I'm good. I have them noted. How do you guys feel?
I'm good.
Okay.
Would you like to vote?
Seeker, no?
Seeker, it is a type 2.
Type 2.
So that's on page 1 of the memo?
No, it is, yeah, we don't have
page
to do
8.
it, we don't have to do it.
No,
No,
so
with
when
type 2,
something
no.
is a type 2, it has to be captured in the agenda, and so we've captured it in the agenda, and we've also noted it in the memo.
Okay, have we always done that?
Pardon?
Have we always done that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
You have always done that with me.
With you, okay, all right, that
In the-
was
in the-
that was the important note.
In the
Yeah.
past, we have maybe gone through the full short
I don't
form
want to.
when we didn't need to. Yeah.
We're good.
No, I'm not
So-
saying that. I'm not saying we
So
should. Never.
motion
We should.
to approve as conditioned,
With conditions and recommendations.
Yes. Do I have a motion?
so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're good. No other new business? Yes. Thank you guys.
Thanks for putting up with us.
We appreciate it.
So that concludes the hearing, and we will be in touch.
Well,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Do I have a second to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.